Господин Нотстајн, вие сте федерален обвинител во обвинителството за гонење корупција во Вашингтон. Може ли накратко да ни кажете како функционира вашето обвинителство и за кои кривични дела најчесто гоните и каков профил на личности?
So I'm a prosecutor with the Public Integrity section of the U.S. Department of Justice. We are federal prosecutors who specialize in investigating and prosecuting public corruption broadly. Typically, we end up charging our subjects with our offense of bribery, but we're empowered to charge them with any of the crimes under the United States Criminal Code. The way we're set up is basically that we work as specialists in the public corruption sphere. We're based in Washington, but we are empowered to work cases across the United States, either by ourselves or in conjunction with the other federal prosecutors in the various states. And a couple advantages to the system, I think, are one, it sets us up as a group of specialists, either that can be resources for prosecutors in the field, or we can handle the cases ourselves. But additionally, the federal prosecutors in the various states are all empowered to prosecute public corruption cases as well on their own. So it serves as a nice structural check in that both of us can prosecute cases if necessary. We can work them together or work them by ourselves. As for the typical profile of our subjects, our mandate is to investigate corruption of public officials at the federal level and the state level at times as well as even local officials. We prosecute cases both big and small. We have prosecuted sitting legislators, judges, prosecutors, law enforcement, also government clerks at the low level. We think it's important to prosecute corruption of all kinds. So really there's no limit to the size, either big or small, of our subjects, and we do all kinds of cases.
Во земјава сте за да ги пренесете вашите искуства на македонските колеги, обвинители, суди, истражители, ревизори. Со оглед на тоа што во вашата биографија стои дека сте истражувале корумпирани федерални функционери, полицајци, така наречени бели јаки, шверц со дрога и перење пари. Што ќе им кажете, што ќе им пренесете на македонските колеги, што е клучно за успешна истрага за финансиски криминал, перење пари, за водење на борба со висока корупција? Ова ве прашувам со оглед на тоа што Македонија се соочува со проблеми, со критики за распространета корупција, особено со проблеми во борбата со гонење на високи функционери.
Well, I've been very thrilled to be invited here by my colleagues at the embassy and with OPDAT, and to meet with the prosecutors, regulators, investigators, and auditors here in North Macedonia. I've done this in other countries as well, and I find it's so valuable to share our experiences. And the reason why I found in other places and here during my time as well is that we share common problems. You know, when it comes to corruption existing, as well as the investigation and prosecution of corruption, we have similar challenges. And it's really valuable to be able to talk to your counterparts, share those experiences, and how we can all move forward. I've been incredibly impressed so far with the quality of the people I've met with so far. Incredibly dedicated, smart, thorough, and really excellent at their craft. What I see in my discussions with them that I think is the same experience we've had is that there are three things that are really key in setting up an anti-corruption system and an apparatus to go after public corruption. And that's going to be integrity, resources, and teamwork. So the first is integrity. It's incredibly important that everyone in the anti-corruption investigation and prosecution regime approach their work with a lot of integrity. And that is going after cases absent political pressure, following the evidence where it takes you, and maintaining strict regulations to ensure that your cases are protected until it's time to charge and bring to trial. I think it's also important that we all have proper resources. Wherever you are, there's always limited resources, and everywhere the anti-corruption regime can always benefit from additional resources, whether that's funding for equipment, training, people, software. It's really important. And in fact, time is a great resource that we all need. Sometimes parts of our investigations can take longer than others, and so it's really important to be able to work as swiftly and efficiently as possible to get to the charges and to get to the resolution. One of the things you can do with there is the final thing I mentioned, which is teamwork. We have found the best success in the United States when we are able to have our prosecutors, as I said, sometimes we work in parallel, have our prosecutors work together, have our law enforcement agencies work together and support each other, whether that's investigators, financial investigators, auditors, regulators, sharing information, talking to each other. I know it seems odd to say, but really sitting face to face, sharing experiences, telling what you're seeing in the community, and developing that level of trust. It's really important, and we found great success in the U.S. when we've been able to do that and combining our forces towards that common goal.
Каде се најголемите замки со кои што може да се соочи еден обвинител кога постапува во предмети против моќни функционери на високи функции и на што треба да внимава најмногу?
I think what I've found in my career as a prosecutor is that one of the great challenges when dealing with someone who is a very powerful person is that this is a person that is going to be extremely well resourced, well known, and trusted in the community. And as a prosecutor, if you have credible evidence that that person is in fact corrupt, it can be very challenging to convince the jury, the judge, the people that that person who they have trusted and they have put in power because they trust them and think they do a good job, that in fact they are actually doing something wrong. They're doing something illegal. So what that has taught me is that what a public corruption prosecutor needs is to ensure that they're getting really compelling evidence of that this person is doing something wrong. And again, that requires a great deal of teamwork and planning by the prosecutor and the investigators to ensure they know how to collect the evidence that the person knew what they were doing was wrong, that they in fact made this corrupt bargain. And then also pursuing the financial investigation to ensure you show how the person obtained the money, what they may have done with it, where they're hiding assets, to allow us, once there's been a conviction under the law, to pursue asset forfeiture where necessary, to take the profit out of the crime.
Што е неопходно за да има успешна конфискација, односно зошто конфискацијата е важна за овие предмети?
Well, asset forfeiture, confiscation, that is incredibly important for what I just said, which is we have to take the profit out of the crime. If corrupt officials and those that support them know that they can keep their ill-gotten gains, if they hide them well enough, it's not going to deter them enough. But if they see that we are able to take what they have gotten from their criminal scheme, it is a strong, strong message that they can't get away with it. And in order to do so, I think, one, you really have to have a focus on it and intentionally pursue asset forfeiture using the legal mechanisms at your disposal. But to support that, and just to back up, that's something that we've made an effort to do at the Department of Justice, to make sure we include asset forfeiture whenever appropriate. But to do so, it requires a robust and effective and efficient financial investigation. As the world gets more global, the world gets more complex, so too do how corrupt officials and those that empower them share the money, how they hide the money, and what kinds of money, the kind of assets in which they hide things, whether it be real estate or virtual assets. So we as investigators and prosecutors need to be empowered and trained and resourced well enough so we can conduct an efficient enough financial investigation to find those assets to allow the prosecutors to go through the confiscation procedures. There are many times when the financial investigation can take a long time, lag behind the rest of the investigation. We see that in the U.S. as well. So it's important that, again, we have the resources and are also planning well in advance to make sure that we can do that as quickly as possible.
Колку е важна транспарентноста во овие високопрофилни предмети?
I think that proper transparency is incredibly important. We are doing this not for ourselves, but for the people. Transparency also helps with restoring public confidence in the government because they see that corruption is being attacked, confidence in the prosecutors and investigators that we are doing the right thing with their resources and for them. It also helps serve as a strong deterrent. It's one thing to indict or convict a corrupt official. It will help tremendously if we then make that public to let others know they can't get away with it. That being said, I think it's important to be measured and only communicate appropriately. So we have a principle with the Department of Justice that we speak through our public filings and by our advocacy in court. We do this because those things, our filings, the things we state in court, are supported by evidence. We obviously can't make those allegations unless there's something behind it. And that comes from a principle of fairness and due process. We wouldn't want to be putting out allegations against someone without evidence, with time in which they can't defend themselves. And so we would not make public or announce investigations when we don't have the appropriate evidence yet to bring charges. So our general principle at the Department of Justice is we will announce our charges and lay out the evidence that we have against the individual. We will announce when there is a conviction and the evidence that was used to convict the person. And when there's a sentence, we'll make the sentence public and the reasons that the judge gave for that sentence. But apart from that, we keep our investigation secret. We have laws to protect that. It is our culture to protect that. And I think that it is something that helps serve the public's faith in us, that they know we are not using the facts of investigation to further an agenda of any kind. It is simply, we are pursuing the facts, and when the facts are ready to be given to the public, we will do so.
Колку јавноста во САД верува во обвинителите, во работата на обвинителите и што е потребно и клучно за да има доверба јавноста во работата на обвинителството?
I like to hope that the public does have a great deal of faith in us. We work hard to earn that trust. And we are also mindful that it takes a long time to earn the trust and only a moment to lose it. So I think that is something that we endeavor to do through our work to maintain the public's faith in what we are doing. You know, the word integrity is in the name of our section. I think we work hard to take that to heart and to really understand that we are stewards of the public's power, and that we have to be excellent in everything we do and be thorough in everything we do and be dispassionate in everything we do. Not that we don't think that public corruption is a dangerous thing, needs to be rooted out, but that we are never pursuing individuals for individuals' sake. We're not pursuing a political agenda. We are simply taking an allegation, following the facts to where they go, and bringing appropriate charges. And I think that the honest truth is that maintaining the public's trust is simply having your principles, sticking with them over time, and being consistent even when it's hard. And that's not always easy, it's not always quick, but in our experience, that is the path.
Thank you very much, Mr. Notstајн, for this interview.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.